years with so few talking heads, hardly any, no interviews at all, no questions being asked. You let him tell the whole story. How did you pull that off?
I'm just going to repeat that real quick. So you didn't use a lot of talking heads, you just really let him tell the story. How did you pull that off?
That was the only way I was going to make the film, and that's the only way I would make any film, really. It's so much more interesting for me in my imagination of how it is for an audience. So creatively, that's what I'm attracted to. And for him, he was a willing participant, you know, he's so dynamic and charming, and the camera loves him, and he was very natural. And I think when other people start talking about him and saying how great he is, like, it's just less interesting. So I wasn't interested in that so much. I mean, if someone's alive, then that's how you want to get to know them and feel them and hear them and see them, and it just never compares to what other people say about them. There are exceptions to that, but that was my instinct with him.
In the gray shirt there?
Question about the sound. There's a scene where he's talking to the younger guy, the violin maker. And then the next scene is him in 1974 in Israel. The sound in that shot of him playing is brilliant, but we know that the sound quality from 1974 is not that good.
Right.
So my question is, did you remaster it or did you dub it in?
Neither. We got that archive footage after quite a search for it, and it was already mastered that was from 1974, 1978, there were two different parts. They had already been worked on. That. There were very few moments in the film that were archived, maybe 5 or 7 minutes or something, and they were fortunate enough that the sound was high quality, so I didn't have to do either on that.
Gentlemen in the shirt, please.
I want to congratulate you on this film because it captured him, to me, as a human being, as a common individual, someone that could come into your living room and you could sit and have a conversation, whether it be about sports or dogs or cooking or whatever. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, Miss in the gray.
I loved all the family stuff and Toby and the kids and all that, and I loved that. And how did you feel like you were a member of the family after you'd been hanging around with them as long as you must have been?
What was the last
Did
one?
you feel like you were part of the family?
Oh. The question was, did you feel like you were a part of the family by the time this was done?
Well, they certainly have enough children and grandchildren, but yes, they're incredibly warm and welcoming. And there was at our premiere at the Hamptons, Toby was saying there just really was not one moment of drama or no problems. They were so easy to work with, and I was hopefully easy to work with back. And they're so settled in their life. I've done other subjects that I was on a whaling vessel once off the coast of Nagasaki filming the artist Matthew Barney, and every day was drama. And this was very smooth in that way. So I'm sure you felt some of that. And their family are just, all the children are gems and wonderful to work with. And, we didn't want to put too much of that, but we also wanted to put enough of that. That's always the trick with documentary films, is riding that line of, how much is too much, and, finding this balance. It's so much about a balance.
But you caught their love story. That was really nice.
Yeah, for me, that was a huge part of this.
She mentioned how she really caught their love story. Yes, with the necklaces.
Is it out for distribution yet?
So we just got picked up by Landmark Theaters, so it'll start March 9th in New York. It'll make its way across the country, I think, a week later in LA, and then it'll be on PBS, American Masters, in October. It's Disability Month, so I think they're doing 6 screenings, and then on Netflix or Amazon or one of the platforms, digital platforms.
Yes, sir.
Can you articulate how you may have changed because of this project? What did it do to you?
The question was, how did the project change you?
Or did?
Right. It's certainly, I learned a lot about classical music, and my love for classical music grew, and just an overall appreciation for ITZHAK and that world. You know, and I think you learn from each experience and from each film. We worked incredibly hard on this film, so you sort of are a different person when you come out the other side. It's a massive undertaking, but so I'm older, wiser, better filmmaker from any mistakes you make and just normal path of life.
To touch on that, how long from the beginning of the project did this take to be?
We started filming the Medal of Freedom award in 2015 when Obama was. So sad now to see how the world has changed so much since this film got made. So we actually went back and started putting more of him in the edit room. But so it started at the end of 2015 and finished a couple months ago, so about 2 years.
With Orange?
Okay. How challenging was the funding? How did that come about? And you said you were approached.
Yeah.
So the funding was there?
So we got some initial funding, which certainly jump-started the project and made it happen. And then I applied for an NEH grant, which I don't know if anyone's applied, their 100-page application. You want to kill yourself by the end. And we got it, as you saw in the advertisement. And then I went to some individuals and foundations. Someone in our audience here was very generous, and you make it happen. And obviously my subject was not so hard to raise money for, because he's got a lot of fans.
In the front here?
Yes, thank you so much. It was just a beautiful film. I kept waiting to see Mr. Perlman and his first American teacher be together on the screen. Is there any reason why you didn't have the screen that?
We couldn't find that. I mean, we also wanted to be so selective with the archive footage. So, oh, sorry, she just asked why Dorothy DeLay, his first teacher. Actually, that was his second teacher. Colombian was his first teacher, but either of them, we even looked for photos. We couldn't really find them together. There wasn't so much documentation at that point, and.
But I mean, present day.
Oh, she passed away. Are you talking about Dorothy DeLay? Yes, she passed away in the late 90s, yeah. But that's a beautiful moment, right? When she says she falls in love with him. Yeah, we all. Actually, when I showed him the rough cut a couple months before we finished, he was emotional. That was the scene he was tearing at, and so I knew I touched him, which was nice.
I see a gentleman in the back, standing.
2 questions. First one very short. How many hours of filming did you do to edit it down to about 9 minutes? And second, whenever you approach this, what kind of message do you have in the back of your head that you wanted to convey? And did that message change as you filmed and went through the process?
I'll answer the second question. Well, it was 100 hours of footage. I could say that, around 100 hours of footage. I think that's what we tallied up at the end, which it didn't feel that much, which is odd, but yeah, it was really a lovely shooting process. But authenticity and sincerity are always at the heart of what I aim to get. Who this person really is, the questions that you ask and how you can get out of them their most authentic selves, and break down any walls and barriers when you're asking these questions to get their vulnerability. It actually wasn't that easy. I needed Toby to come on. He's not always so comfortable talking about some of that, understandably, but then Toby would come, and together they, as you saw, I think it was a great way to bring that out. That was why I had both of them during that park bench scene.
I think we have time for one more question. Here in the front, in the blue.
I was curious as to how did you get your start in filmmaking and a little bit of your background?
So I worked a little bit in television, kind of learned some of the technical stuff, and just didn't love working in TV. It was so formulaic, and I was in the art world a bit. I had a bunch of friends that were artists and living in Chelsea and Manhattan. And I ended up doing my first film on Jeff Koons, which was a feature. And then didn't know what to do after that. Ended up doing this film on Matthew Barney that I mentioned before that was on this whaling vessel off the coast of Nagasaki, which was pretty crazy, him and Bjork. and then did a lot of short films on gastronomy and healthcare and fashion art. And then this one came about, and I sort of take a break in between because they're pretty intense, these projects. And I direct commercials. I might do a fiction film next.
Thank you so much, Alison, for joining us. I hope you all had a great time. Don't forget to turn in those ballots to the volunteers as we leave the theater.